Vice President Harris better than senior aides do to President Yoon. I can't tell you how many leaders in countries around the world call me worried, say, he's not really going to win, is he? It was really heartbreaking. I cleaned up the Capitol because...
Thank you for your time today.
Of course, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, I'll quickly go over my questions. So my first question is, you made a speech at the DNC a few weeks ago saying try to heal the country by being caretakers. What exactly has to be healed in the States?
Well, I really do believe that this is a very precarious moment for America, for our democracy. And it isn't just about our politics, that there's something deeper that I worry about. I've been saying lately that I feel like sometimes America feels like a country addicted to anger.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of people just so angry at each other and yelling at each other. And I think that it feels like we're losing touch with this idea that we're part of something bigger than all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And when you only start to think about yourself, when you only start to think about people who think like you, we lose touch with the broader country. We lose touch with what it means to be in a democracy where, people aren't going to all agree on everything. So that's what I was trying to get at, is that we do need to heal this country. I'm worried about what kind of America my little boys are going to grow up in. And I want them to have the kind of opportunity and stability that I had when I was younger. And I think a lot of Americans, that's what we want. So that's what I'm trying to fight for.
What are the main concerns of Asian American voters this year?
Well, there are a lot of concerns. I mean, first and foremost, I would say is that, I think sometimes our politics, it doesn't treat Asian American voters with the kind of respect that they deserve.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes our politics talks about Asian American voters as if they're a special interest group, and yes, there are issues specific to Asian Americans that people are concerned about. We are concerned about the increased discrimination and violence, that we see facing the Asian American community. We're concerned about issues like immigration and small business issues that are affecting our community in particular ways. But I'll be honest, a lot of the Asian Americans I talked to in New Jersey,
Mm-hmm.
they have a lot of the same concerns as everybody else. They have a lot of concerns about healthcare. They have a lot of concerns about high costs. They have a lot of concerns about security in our own communities and worry about crime, worry about, whether or not we can protect their kids and their
Mm-hmm.
grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think sometimes we're talked down to in politics. People think, we're just only interested in the niche issues that affect our community in a very unique and specific way. But what we've been trying to do is treat it differently. I've been going around, about New Jersey and engaging the Asian American community and really listening to them and hearing the totality of the problems that they're worried about.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's something that I hope others will do in the future in terms of understanding how best to be able to engage and earn the support from Asian American voters, which are the largest, or which are the fastest growing demographic in America right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What seems to be the big difference between the Harris-Walz ticket and the Biden-Harris ticket?
Well, I think the first and foremost, with Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket, it's energizing so many people because there's a hunger in America for a new generation of leadership to step up. I think there's a lot of sense that we want to move forward, that we want to have younger energy perspectives at the mix, and someone like Kamala Harris also just her her way of leadership, the approach that she's taking. She's always been somebody that's been so kind and respectful to me as I started up as a young lawmaker.
Mm-hmm.
She's somebody that really invests in relationships, and I think that that's something that people are fired up about. But I think it's a lot of it just comes with we're ready to be able to see someone step up that can represent and give voice to younger people in this country, and be able to bring a freshness, a new voice, at a time when so much of our politics has gotten stagnant and has been held back from some of the battles of the past. So I know that's certainly why I'm really excited about it.
Mhm. However, Harris seems like she switched her major policies recently a bit, like fracking and EV mandate, perhaps. Some points out her ambiguity. What would you say about this?
I think we want somebody that can recognize that things are changing. Like America right now is very different than America before the pandemic in a lot of different parts of our economy and other needs. Also, when it comes to our energy, we also passed the Inflation Reduction Act in the meantime.
Mhm.
That has fundamentally shifted and changed our country's approach when it comes to renewable energy, has given us, so much more uh, velocity in terms of trying to address climate change. So I do think that, circumstances are different as well. And we want a leader that looks at things as they are, be pragmatic about it, tries to think about, how we can address this to the best needs of our country. And that's a good thing. We don't want someone who's stubborn, who's not taking on new information. And I think Kamala Harris is someone who's going to be very thoughtful about a lot of our policies going forward. And I hope to have a chance to be able to, work with her from the U.S. Senate.
I'm asking this because President Yoon's senior aide raises concerns about Harris's ambiguity, especially on security issues, like, oh, I can teach her, I can advise her. What would you say about that?
Well, on security issues, I mean, look, Vice President Harris has been involved in a lot of the big discussions and decisions. I know that when I was, working on a lot leading up to the 70th anniversary of the U.S. South Korea partnership, the armistice of the Korean War. Vice President Harris was engaged in a lot of those discussions about what comes next for U.S. South Korea relations. Especially about the U.S. position with the Indo-Pacific and U.S.-China challenges that we face. So, I certainly have a lot of confidence in her ability to take on these difficult issues. There's always more to learn, always more to engage. I'm somebody that worked in national security. I worked in diplomacy before. I'm still, I'm still learning and engaging, especially about what comes next with U.S. Relations to the Indo-Pacific. It's incredibly complicated, and there's a lot that we need to do. Also, just a lot of different changes, in terms of how different countries are engaging. But when you look at what the White House has done, trying to strengthen South Korea, Japan relations with the trilateral with the United States, the summit in Camp David. These are just remarkable achievements that I know Kamala Harris is going to want to prioritize going forward.
So you don't worry like President Yoon's senior aide at all? Is that
Well,
it?
I can say that I know Vice President Harris better than senior aides do to President Yoon, and I hope I can give assurance that she is someone who's up to the task. I've worked in the White House before. I've been in the Situation Room hundreds of times for tough decisions, and I know a lot of the challenges that a president of the United States faces. Kamala Harris is up to the task, and it's not just on her. She's going to surround herself with an incredibly talented team. And we're going to need to make sure that we have a U.S. Senate and a U.S. House of Representatives that can work with her to try to create the kind of foreign policy that we need to. So I certainly am ready to step up and help her, and I think she's going to be somebody that is certainly ready to take on the task of being the commander in chief of the United States.
Okay, got it. If we flash back to the January 6th riot, you cleaned up all the mess after the Capitol was breached. So, based on your own experience, what do you worry the most about Trump?
Yeah, well, look, the first question you asked me about, when it comes to
Mhm.
why I'm concerned about this country and why I think it needs healing. It's not all because of Trump, but Trump is somebody who has really tried to further divide our country. He gains his power and his strength from division. He is somebody that foments fear and hate in
Mhm.
order to be able to strengthen his own agenda and ambitions. And I think that that's really just absolutely not what we need in a leader right now. And we see that manifest with January 6th. I truly believe that so many of the leaders of the Republican Party, they know they lost the election. They just refuse to give in because, they're just trying to hold on to control and power at all costs to the point where it jeopardizes our democracy. What we saw on January 6th with the breaking into the Capitol and the riots, like that should not happen in the richest, most powerful country in the world, a democracy like, the United States. It was really heartbreaking. I cleaned up the Capitol because I felt like, that we needed to show that we're resilient as a country, that we're not going to take this, that we're going to make sure we step up and do everything we can to be able to change the trajectory of this country. Donald Trump in the White House again for another 4 years would be devastating to the United States. And I think people all around the world recognize that too. I can't tell you how many leaders in countries around the world call me worried, say, he's not really going to win, is he? There's a very strong recognition that he's a danger, not just to America, but to people all over the world. And it's honestly not just Trump. There's a deeper rot to our country that we need to address that Trump is taking advantage of. But I think that, we need to make sure that we have a leader that's going to try to bring us together rather than divide us further.
Mhm. Then let me ask you, which part worries you the most about Korea under Trump's policies?
Well, when you look at on Trump's engagements with the Korean Peninsula, I mean, you saw the disrespect that Trump had towards the South Korean military, really just trying to strain the relationships by putting undue pressure on the South Koreans to pay even more in terms of their share of the military partnership. These were things that didn't need to happen. So much of the challenges that we saw on a number of other fronts, I just felt like we're antagonizing this relationship. We even had to, in a bipartisan way, pass legislation. We tried to introduce and pass legislation in Congress that would stop Trump from just unilaterally withdrawing all U.S. troops from South Korea because we didn't know what he was going to do. President Trump is somebody that does not respect alliances. He does not respect partnerships. We see that by how he continuously mocks and denigrates NATO, which is such an important national security alliance for the United States. He has that same kind of disregard for South Korea and others. He does not consider them and treat them with respect that allies deserve. He very much believes that America on its own is really the main thing that needs to happen, and that would be a devastating situation for South Korea to have that kind of situation. We also saw, I mean, look, Trump got engaged with North Korea, had the talks, but he just didn't put the kind of work into it to really try to advance that to the level that was needed. And we saw ultimately, at some point he just, he lost patience, lost attention, didn't want to follow it through, didn't want to see, what could happen, going forward. And as a result, we see that, a lot of that to him was just, trying to get on the news and trying to have the attention, but wasn't really putting in the work to try to figure out how we can actually come up with some solutions to bring greater security to the Korean Peninsula. Those are the types of things that really put the U.S. position in Asia in a worse position, but also really damage the U.S.-South Korea relationship in ways that we're still trying to repair. So I think it's important that we see and remember what it is that he did, and how in many ways it very much weakened the U.S.-South Korea relationship at that time, and hopefully we can go in a different direction.
So are you saying that he is polarizing the world as well?
Well, he is basically trying to put in place a neo-isolationism policy for the United States to withdraw its global leadership from around the world. And doing so is going to have major repercussions everywhere. You can see it. That would be devastating to Ukraine. And if Ukraine does not have the support to be able to continue to stand strong, that will just embolden other countries to try to be, aggressive, and that could embolden North Korea. It's certainly emboldening, that's the kind of stuff that emboldens Russia. I mean, it just was something that showed, so much American withdrawal. So, that's what I hope people see is, Trump has, it's not just about any particular country and region. It's a world view of America receding from the global stage. And I think that is something that certainly puts my country at risk, but it also puts some of our closest allies like South Korea at risk.
Okay. Finally, your last words for Koreans out there?
Yeah, well, look, I have to say, first and foremost, this year is 50 years since my parents immigrated from South Korea to the United States.
Wow.
And, the fact that on the 50th anniversary of my family coming to the United States, I have the chance to become the very first Korean American United States senator ever in American history. Koreans have been in the United States for over 120 years. And, I think it's about time that we have a seat at the table, show that we can have a voice in the room. And I'm excited about that. And I hope people see in my journey and my family story the kind of opportunity and the kind of belief in America that has led to so many Korean families, building lives here in the United States. I'm excited to see what comes next. I think the next 10 years are going to be an incredibly exciting and dynamic decade for Korean Americans. And I also think it's going to be an incredibly important time for US Korea relations. I hope people see in me someone who could be a bridge between the United States and South Korea, someone who can help strengthen those relationships, and hopefully I'll have a position and a chance to be able to do so. So I'm grateful for everyone's attention, for their kind words, and look forward to hopefully representing strong and well.
Great. I wish you good luck. And I think I'm done. Is there anything that you want to add?
No, thank you. I've enjoyed this conversation. Thanks so much.
Me too.
Yeah.
Again, thanks for
stay in touch.
the interview today. Thank you for joining us.
Of course. Take care.